Today we're going to learn how to operate the drill press. We've got our table. Notice that there's a hole in the middle here for the drill bit to run down through. We've got our start and our stop button. We've got our chuck. We've got our chuck key that we'll use to get the bit in and out. Talk about how to use that. We have got our handle that we roll to bring the bit down. Over here we've got this stop, which affects how deep the drill will drill. As you can see, when we set it down, it will now go down all the way through the tabletop. If we wanted to set it so that it would stop before it goes through the workpiece, we could adjust this so that it stops at a particular depth. Let's talk first about how to change the bit on the drill. We always ask ourselves the question, if this machine turned on while I was performing an operation, could it hurt me? If we were to place the chuck key inside the chuck and the piece of equipment was to turn on, it could potentially take off our fingers. So we know that we need to unplug this machine before performing this operation. So we need to reach back and unplug the cord. And then we always need to check to make sure we got the correct cord. I've just unplugged the cord that appears as though it's running to this piece of equipment, but clearly it was not the correct cord. So we always want to double check after we have unplugged a cord to make sure we've got the right one by hitting the power button. So we know that this machine is now off. I can put the chuck key inside the chuck, break it loose, spin it until the bit comes out. And then if I'm putting a much larger bit in, I can just rotate that by hand. Now I'm going to insert the new bit. I'm going to place it up until the teeth come down to the top of the flutes on the bit. Now I'm going to tighten it down, and I want this good and tight. If I don't get this plenty tight, then what will happen is when I turn it on and I try to drill, the bit will spin in the wood, okay? Now, one major safety concern with this is it would be very easy to put this chuck key in, tighten it down, and forget that it's there, plug it back in, turn the saw on, and obviously if this turns on with this connected, we're gonna have a major issue when that spins. So we're gonna make sure that we take that chuck key out. This always hangs back behind the saw, or behind the drill rig. Now, I can plug in my machine and it's ready to drill. Now, when I prepare to drill, I'm going to bring this down. We'll line it up with the hole where we want it. We'll turn it on, let it get to full speed, as with every piece of equipment. Then we'll drill down into the wood. When we drill, we don't want to just force the drill all the way down through the wood at one time. Instead, we want to drill a small amount, back the drill out so that it can clear the wood from the flutes in the drill bit, and so that it can also allow the bit to cool. So let me just show you what that would look like. Now this will be especially important if we are working with a hardwood. This is a very soft wood, it drills very easily. Hardwood is going to be a lot more difficult to drill, so you need to take your time, clear that bit often. Now, one major safety concern here is often students will want to take their hand and they'll want to run it underneath this bit to clear that wood out of there. We don't want to do that because the bottom of this bit is very sharp and it can be very hot depending on how much you've been drilling. So we're going to use a table broom instead to make sure that we clear everything. Now, if we have a piece of wood that we are concerned about not damaging, see how this when the drill came through, it actually splintered out the backside of the wood. So in some cases, you may have to put a backer board on so that this hole is not there. In other words, if I drill here and this wood is sitting on this piece of wood, this is a sacrificial piece of wood, instead of blowing out the bottom of my workpiece, it will drill down into this and it will preserve the bottom of the piece that I'm trying to drill through. One other safety concern that we want to look out for is if you're drilling something that is too small for you to hold safely, you are going to take a wood clamp and you are going to clamp this in place. You clamp that down so that it cannot move. Now we don't have to be concerned about this piece getting caught in the drill bit and then spinning out of our hand. We know that this is secure where it is. We know that we're not going to walk away from this machine until it is done spinning. Clear everything away and remove that piece. So to recap, if we need to change the bit, we are going to unplug the machine, check for stored power, check to make sure we have the correct machine unplugged by pressing the start and then the stop button. We'll grab our chuck key and loosen it, take the bit out, insert the new bit so that the teeth are even with the top of the flutes. Tighten it down very tight so that it doesn't come loose while we're drilling. Be sure to remove the chuck key and let it hang down below. Plug the saw back in. If we have a work piece that is too small to hold safely, we'll clamp it to the tabletop so that it cannot spin and hit us in the hand. And then while we are drilling, we will make sure that we drill into the wood, back it out to clear the bit and cool the bit. A little further, back it out, clear the bit, cool the bit, and then all the way through. And we know that if we have something that we're drilling that we need to protect from blowout in the back, we will replace a sacrificial wood piece.